Bienvenidos de nuevo a Oportunidades en Grecia, el podcast en el que tratamos de acercar las oportunidades que, en el marco de la internacionalización, de la exportación, la inversión y la captación de financiación, el país presenta para la empresa española. Welcome again to Oportunidades en Grecia, the podcast where we try to get business opportunities regarding exports and investments in the country, Greece, closer to Spanish companies. Today, in this our 26th episode, we'll talk about the contract channel. It is a very specific channel that commercializes goods related with construction, design, decoration, and architecture, which goal is to furnish collective spaces, such as offices, hospitals, hotels, restaurants. And we're very lucky to have with us here Marita Nikaki. Marita, how are you? Welcome.
Good morning, Jorge. Fine. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you, Marita. Marita is an architect. She is a project manager at Makridis Associates, an award-winning architectural firm that designs spaces and shapes experiences and cities with 25 plus years of experience. Before getting into the Q&A, or classic Q&A, let me brief you a little bit about the channel, the Horeca sector, and the role of Spain at this very moment in the country. So with respect to the contract channel, it's very important that some of the trends that we see are the redefinition of private buildings so that they can be functional to work. As you know, telework is here, it's come to stay. So more flexibility redefining private buildings. More flexibility also redefining office buildings. Now, as I said, people telework. Some of the days they might not be in the office has to look different. We also see trends, modern or different trends in public buildings such as hospitals and schools, where of course, also in the previous, where sustainability is playing a bigger and bigger role. And we also see new trends in the Horeca sector, where we can see there is a trend into moving from a standard place to eat or spend the night into a more of a cultural, social experience. Now, a brief note regarding the Horeca sector. We have covered it forever in the Economic and Commercial Office. Workshop included in 2023. Marita helped us a lot then, again. We will have an inverse mission in September. And a couple of numbers. In the last 5 years, 450 4- and 5-star hotels have been opened in the country. 244 3-star hotels have been opened in the country. So big investment in the sector, 2.5 billion euros every year. Big amount of imports of goods also from the sector, where the main players are China, Germany, and Italy. Spanish brands being strong competitors as well, and with great perspectives. Greece got 40 million people visiting in 2024. This number is expected to grow in 2025. Now, very briefly, regarding Spain, we're the 5th provider in the channel, in the contract channel. Spanish companies enjoy good branding, and we lead in ceramics. Our style, whether it's conservative or conventional, or classic, or more cutting edge, is welcome in this sector of activity. And now, Marita, back to you with the Q&A. Would like to ask you, first of all, we threw out there a couple numbers, but what's your take on the growth of the contract channel in these last years? And is it hospitality? Is it more offices? What's leading?
Jorge, you mentioned so many important points in your introduction, so it would be very interesting if we take point by point what you said. First of all, I was thinking while you were speaking that our collaboration is getting more exciting every time we meet. So thank you for that. It's a very nice experience for me today. Exactly as you said, in 2024 we had 40 million people visiting Greece. We expect 41 million people in 2025. And bear in mind that we're a country of 10 million people. So you can understand the number of the tourists visiting Greece. It seems like Greece is becoming the resort of Europe or a retirement place for the Central Europeans. I believe it's mostly because of the climate, the sun and the sea. Both countries, Spain and Greece, we have in common that we are surrounded by the Mediterranean Sea. We share the same climate, and we share many architectural principles as well. We use local materials a lot in architecture. We use stone and terracotta. We try to integrate courtyards and patios in the architectural design. And I'm very, very glad that you mentioned the sustainability, which is really, really important nowadays in architecture and into building new projects. We have many, many hotels as undergoing projects now in the office. It happens that most our projects are actually hotels. We have many projects in Crete, Corfu, Rhodes, which are big islands in Greece. And we have many residential projects as well on the islands, in Cyclades, but in the mainland as well. What is really important to mention at this point is that the joint projects we have as countries, Spain and Greece, have increased 85% in the last 5 years, which is actually really inspiring for our countries. So the growth is something that nobody can, challenge. The hospitality projects that we have, we could say that are divided into two categories. We have many buildings that we renovate, but when we say renovate, we mean severe renovation. These are usually buildings that were built back in the 80s. So now they are in need of renovation, not only architecturally wise, but electromechanical wise. And we do have some projects that are built in greenfield. So we have some projects designed from scratch. Usually in Greece, the investors are either private families, Greek private families, or can be international funds. A lot of international funds do invest lately in Greece.
Well, a ton of information, very worth it, by the way. Of course, as I think we all agree, big growth. Hotels playing a main role in that big growth. 85% increase in the cooperation with Spain. I think that's something we have to bear in mind. And the investors. It's also important for those that are listening that those are usually families and funds. So those are the end buyers of the product. You mentioned the increase in cooperation with Spain. I wanted to ask you, what's the role of the Greek industry, the capacity of the Greek industry with respect to all this growth? Is it capable, the Greek companies able to cope with all the demand? Is there more and more room for international companies? What's your take?
The capacity is big. So, as architects, what we do, and I believe that you mostly refer to the FF&E sector, and by FF&E we mean furniture, fixtures, and equipment. What we do is that we try to offer a complete solution to the client. That means that apart from the architectural design, we go to the client with a full list and a full package of all the equipment that he requires, let's say, for example, for a hotel to operate. Being a global village nowadays, we don't only request collaboration with Greek factories or companies. We also due to Pinterest, I would say mostly, because you know that Pinterest has opened many horizons to the design. We also request collaborations with international companies. This task that we need to complete at the end of the project is not an easy task. It's not something that you do overnight. It's a constant collaboration with companies and factories, because the budget of the FF&E in a hospitality project is actually a big percentage of the whole budget. So it could be, let's say, up to 20% of the whole budget of the hotel. And you understand that the figures are big when it comes to hotels. So the capacity is large. We do seek for new opportunities, for new collaborations, for new companies, because we don't want to repeat ourselves. We don't want each project to look like the previous project. We want to be innovative. We want to offer something unique, because everybody nowadays is much more educated. All tourists are educated. It's not like, you go and it's easy for something to be impressive to them. So I would say that we do seek international collaboration. It's very important to us.
So you said complete solution, you take care of that, but within the chain of value, you might need suppliers, and those might come from the international scene. Who are the main international competitors? Who's present here in the country? I mentioned briefly, Italy, a few more. Who are the main competitors in the sector?
Italy would be the first in my list, and you know that Italians are very well known for their design. Germany would also be a competitor. Germans are very good technologically. Technically they are very, very solid. I would mention also Turkey. They're very good in furniture. I wouldn't put Spain in the fifth. I think you mentioned them as the fifth in the list.
That's what I said.
No. I think probably they would be higher though in the list. Anyways, Spain is one of the countries that we always research to. And also I would mention Asia. Asia has lately taken a big percentage of the market, as you mentioned before, China.
I think there's a big potential. The countries that you mentioned are, in terms of exports of goods, better placed than Spain. Spain plays already a role in ceramics and growing with fabrics and lighting and other things. But it's good to know from the expert that the country could be even better positioned than what we thought. What about the distribution channels? What is the way the goods and services within the contract channel are sold usually? Is it physically in a physical way or with physical presence? How does the e-commerce work, if it works at all?
E-commerce does work, and always having in mind that we went through COVID era, everything having to do with I think bloomed. If you ask me, having described the task that we do and the fact that the collaboration is constant, I would focus in the human side of it. What we have to do, the task that I mentioned before, we need a person from each company to be assigned to us. When we design a hotel and we want to make the list of the FF&Es, we search and we propose what would be ideal for us. We send this list to the suppliers, and from their end they have to reply to us with alternatives they have in their factory, in their company. They would actually suggest 2 or 3 alternatives, because pricing is one factor that is very important for the client. We would choose one of these alternatives. We would try to mix and match all the items that we want to have as a final product. We would also be responsible to make the budget. So that's a collaboration that takes time. Usually, in order for us to make the FF&E's list, we need 3 or 4 months probably for a large project. It would be very easy for us to have somebody from the factory or the company to be assigned for this project. It's much easier to have met with this person, to be able to have spent like a day with him, so to be able to feel closer, and it would be easier for you to, pick up your phone and call him and say, hey, Jorge, we have this project, please can you be helpful to, go back and forth with the lists and be able to do the pricing. So at the end of the day, we complete the task, we send it to the client, and that would make the company have a higher possibility in getting the project, the job. But it's something that requires a lot of help and a lot of effort from our side, both as an architect, plus the factory and the company from the Spanish side.
So there is a necessity of investing time and resources if the Spanish companies want this to proceed, right?
Exactly.
You need someone dedicating some time during the process so that it works correctly.
Most of the times, I know that the companies have local distributors, so these people could actually have the role of the intermediary, but it would be even nicer to be able to, bring people together from Spain and Greece to have a direct collaboration on that.
We're working on that, and you're helping a lot. Let me ask you about the branding of Spanish products in the country. We know that we sell, therefore we're doing it somehow fine, well. We know that we sell a lot in ceramics. We know there is presence in fabrics, lighting, furniture. What's your take with respect to the branding of our products?
Exactly, the items that you mentioned are the ones that as architects need in order to be able to propose a Spanish company. We work together on furniture, on decorative items, on lighting fixtures, on fabrics, on carpets. I think that if you want to help the Spanish companies take a bigger market in Greece, we have some parameters that are super important for the local projects. That would be the design as number one, because as architects, this is what we sell. It would be the quality, and here is something important that we need to mention. We cannot choose FF&Es only by photos. This wouldn't be the wiser solution for a big project that we want to have a high quality. We need people to be responsive and send samples on site. We usually ask the client to create a mock-up room, for example, so that we can see everything on site with a natural light, with everything to be real. So we cannot choose only by photos. We need to touch the furniture, for example. We need to see the finishes. We need to see that everything aligns with each other and that they match the way we want them to be. Pricing, as you understand, is one of the biggest things we need to take in mind, because sometimes you know that the seller, which is the buyer, which is the owner, has a specific budget that he wants to spend on that. So pricing is, even if we want or not, is a very important factor. Delivery dates are very important for a project that has to do with hospitality as well, because you know that the season in Greece is very specific. Usually hotels open in April or May, depending when Easter happens every year. And we close at the end of October. These are the summer season for us in Greece. So you understand that if deliveries are late for a month, it's a big, default for the owner and for the hospitality project. Last but not least is what you mentioned at the beginning of our discussion and conversation: sustainability. As architects, we are educated, people having also sensitivities now in sustainability. It's very important for 2025 and onwards to have sustainable products and sustainable projects.
Okay, well, a ton of information there. Very, very, very interesting. So going on with the cycle, we know there is an opportunity. We know that the Spanish brands could play part of the game here. And what's your take when it comes to promotion? You were to assess us how to bring Spanish companies here, knowing because you participated in that we did a whole workshop in November 2023. It was not on the contract channel, it was more on the Oreca goods and services potential exports. And having visited also some fairs in Spain, having the possibility of having a showroom maybe here, what would be your advice? Should we go for more of the first one, workshops here, more for taking Greek prescribers to Spain, more for having Spanish showrooms here? What would you say?
Jorge, I think that everything that you have done till now help, and everything that you do will help as well. As I said before, for me as a person, it's important to bring people together. It's very important. So this has to be done both sides. Having showrooms in Athens does help a lot, because as I said before, we need to see things live. It's very important for us. We need to touch them, to feel everything, to see the quality. You cannot do that by photos. It's not good. It wouldn't help the high standards products that we want to have at the end. At the same time, workshops help as well. It's really important to personalize the companies and personalize the factories. It's really exciting for us to visit the Spanish companies and meet the people and see their local offices, their local showrooms. You get the idea of how they present their work. It's really important to see the aesthetics they want to have. These factors are for us super important as architects. So it's really nice to be able to visit Spain. It's really nice for Spanish people to come here and see the actual projects, the sites, our work, but to see them in their natural environment. This is very important.
We'll take good note of that. Well, by the way, we will soon, as we discussed before the podcast, have a full exhibition in Athens, June the 4th. Why should people from the audience, Spanish companies might be listening to this podcast, show up? Well, the who's who of the architecture, design, buyers, prescribers of the sector in Athens will attend, and whoever participates, Spanish companies, will have a unique opportunity to showcase their products. And they will be able to do that at Egli Zapiu, located at the heart of the city and annexed to the gymnastics pavilion where the first modern Olympics took place in 1896. I wouldn't miss it. Let me go back to some of the main ideas that we heard from Marita today. Well, very interesting. You mentioned, Marita, the Mediterranean legacy, something that gets all of us together. You mentioned local materials. You mentioned integration of the courtyards, the patios, consideration of the natural light, and so on. You very importantly mentioned some ideas about Spanish products, and they stand out for, I think you talked about delivery time, very important because of the season here in Greece, which is very important not only for this channel, but for many other sectors. As you said, from Easter to October, well, now maybe from even before to even later, because the season has expanded, there are some limitations if you want to do things in the right way. You mentioned, I think, customer satisfaction, stock availability, and then the challenges. I think, as you said, timing is very important. Samples. You need to touch the product. I think that is quite clear. Another word that I keep from the conversation is sustainability. Sustainability is embracing all of the areas of the activity. And the thing that I think it's common to anything in life, also in business, also in the contract channel, which is the people. You need to know the people, you need to meet the people, you need to have contact with the people. So hard to do business with someone from Spain if you can do, of course, through the distributor, but it's always better if you can have someone aligned and that can help and be there to walk with you through the project. So thank you very much, Marita, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I can't wait for our event in June.
Y nosotros nos vemos de nuevo pronto en Oportunidades en Grecia. Aún hay mucho por conocer. Oportunidades en agroalimentario, el plan de recuperación y resiliencia. Hasta pronto.